Hello and welcome to Blush, the world's first wellness show that's actually entertaining. I'm Hiva and I quit law so I can help you look and feel your best. Together, we get into food, nutrition, all the latest wellness trends, but we also laugh, get silly, drop a few F-bombs, and go on a million tangents. So if that sounds like your vibe, we're about to be best friends. Hi, Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and if not, Merry there's nothing to fucking do today day. Actually, it's not so bad nowadays, I feel like, but I remember when I was younger, before there was streaming and stuff, there was like nothing on TV on Christmas. Everything was fucking closed and your friends were busy with their stupid families. It was not the vibe. I really fucking hated. And then when I was in college, I hated coming home for the holidays because I just didn't like, if I'm being really honest, I didn't really like being back at my parents' house. And you know, everyone's kind of like busy with their families. And I just Christmas always brought up a feeling of lack for me and just this mourning what my family could have been. I always wanted a really fun family. We had really fun holiday traditions, and I'd hear about some of my friends' holiday traditions and how fun they were and just how much laughter and joy was in the house. And my house was dreary in the best of times and World War III at the worst of times, but not a lot of laughter and joy. And no offense, you know, I love my parents. We have a great relationship now, but I would imagine they could both agree that that was the case. And yeah, it just brought up a lot of why don't I get to have all this fun that other people are and really be able to connect. And I just didn't get that. And nowadays, I go to Australia for Christmas. So, I mean, last year was my first time going. I am recording this ahead of time, but presumably I will be in Australia when this airs. And I have to say, last year Christmas was a lot of fun. I got pretty drunk, so I had a great time. I can't speak for everyone else, but I had a great time. No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't even think I did. Oh, no, I didn't. We did have drinks and it's fucking summer in Australia for Christmas. So we were outside and did stuff. And then after the festivities died down, Ozzy and I walked to the local middle school or something and shot hoops at their basketball hoops. And it was really fun. I had a really good time. I'm excited for this year. I don't know. We'll see. It's weird doing this time traveling thing of pre-recording things. Anyway, out of respect for you and your time, I will keep this episode short, and it's going to be kind of a fun Christmas episode, although potentially I didn't even connect this until right this second. This could be a little sacrilegious. I know that a lot of Christians are not super comfortable with new age spirituality stuff. So I really hope this isn't offensive, but I don't think it is, because I don't think I'm going to say anything that is outside of the lines of any organized religion, quite frankly. Anyway, so the other day, a couple days ago, I went to the stationery store, which also is a crazy sentence. I went to the stationery store. I guess we just live in a time where there are fewer stores that just sell one specific type of thing, you know? I think that in New York, we have a lot more stores like that, but it's a very kind of vintage concept. It reminds me of being a kid. In Germany, we wouldn't go to a supermarket. We went to the halal butcher to get meat. We went to the bakery to get bread. We went to the supermarket for everything else. Okay, so stupid story. But you know, our parents' generation even more so. And nowadays, I feel like, by the way, this is like not at all related. I love how it said, oh, I'm going to have so much respect for your time and I'll keep the episode short. Now I'm just talking about supermarkets for really no apparent reason. Like there's truly no reason why this is happening. So, but I'm continuing. I'm not going to stop. So what was I going to say? Yeah, I feel like historically there were more specialization in stores than there is nowadays. People, you know, tend to just kind of go to one store for a bunch of shit. I mean, look at Target. Oh my God. Speaking of Target. So when I was in Mexico City, we were there for 2 weeks. The first week, Ozzy and I were free and traveling and doing our own thing, and we stayed in a really cool part of town. And then the second week, he was working down there, so we had to go to the hotel that his work booked, which the hotel was fine, but it was right kind of outside of town, which ended up actually being fine. Like, it really wasn't a huge issue. I would walk into town and it would take me about an hour to get to Poblanco. So that's where I ended up hanging out. That area was where I ended up hanging out a lot so I mean, it was really just a couple of miles or so from Poblanco. It wasn't far or anything, and I could have taken a cab and it would have been a lot faster, but you know, a bitch likes to walk. Anyway, so when we checked into that hotel, we were running into some of his coworkers and stuff, and one of them said the hotel is inside of a mall, and in the basement of this mall is a supermarket, but it is unlike any supermarket you have ever seen before. I can guarantee it. And we were like, okay, that's interesting. So the next day I go to the supermarket to see if they happen to have fresh coconuts, which they did. So I'm so happy. I grab my fresh coconuts and then I'm walking, and you know, there's just a wide array of produce as supermarkets have. And then I get to a bakery section, a very robust bakery section. There's fresh breads, there's pastries, there's cakes, there's cupcakes, there's cookies, I mean, any kind of fucking baked good that you can imagine. So I'm like, okay, amazing. And then I get to the butcher section. You know, deli meats, whatever, meats. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention because your girl doesn't eat meat. And then we get to the dairy section, cheeses galore, crackers. I mean, it was like stepping inside of a cheese shop. Okay, I'm going to stop walking you through kind of the basics of a grocery store because you're familiar with that concept already. Let me get to the next part. So there's a beauty section. Very intense beauty section. I got some of those Nivea chapsticks that my sister-in-law said she loves. Not a fan, not for me. I don't like the texture. Not important. Then I come across a baby section, a women's clothing section, a men's clothing section, socks, shoes, accessories, bags. I'm like, okay, it's kind of like a Target. You know, Target, you know, sometimes has groceries. Now this, I would say, had far more groceries than any Target I've ever seen in my life, but still. And then there's this type of stuff. Cool. And then we're, you know, in the home decor, we're in the kitchen appliances, you guys, this fucking store, I actually cannot think of a single thing that exists on the face of the planet that this store did not sell, down to car tires. One day there were fucking motorcycles in there. I was like, what is happening in here? It's truly a one-stop shop. Anyway, so back to New York City. There are still a lot more specialized stores. Like, there are stores, entire stores, more than one that I can think of, that only sell hats, literally hats, and that is it. There is a store that only sells white t-shirts. There's a stationery store. There's a store that only sells pens. There's a store that only sells kimonos. There's a store, this one's nuts, that only sells lampshades. Only the shades, not even the fucking lamp. You can't even. And then there's a separate store that only sells light bulbs. And you could go to two separate stores and still not have a fucking working lamp. I mean, how nuts is that? Okay, anyway, so I go to the stationery store for, you know, my stationery needs. Now, I have never bought stationery before. I've gone to craft supply stores before. I've bought, I guess, like cardstock before. It turns out I wasn't even fully clear on what the word stationery means, because I walked in and I asked someone, I said, hi, I'm looking for some stationery. And she said, great. Are you looking for this or washi tape or this? And I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Isn't washi tape just like that pretty Japanese tape? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, stationery is anything that would basically go on your desk. And I was like, really? I thought it meant paper, you know? Anyway, I just wanted to have something. And then I had to explain what I wanted. I said, I need to send a thank you note to someone. But then I figured, rather than getting one card, I should just have a bunch at home that I can then, the next time I need to send a handwritten thank you note, which, by the way, how chic, how elegant, how classy. I mean, let's all take a moment. She is Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, basically.
By the way, I still haven't written the note. This was days ago. I still haven't written the note. I should just have it at home. It'll be very chic and elegant. So this other woman taps in. She's like, listen, this girl's a moron. I'll help her. You go do other things. This much older lady, very cool. And so she's showing me all the different options, different types of paper, texture, color, shades. I mean, as someone who likes details, sometimes, not always, I really enjoyed the process. And then I had another question. And when I tell you, I'll tell you what my question was. My question was, am I supposed to get my initials or something engraved on this? Like, is that how stationery works? Which honestly, I think maybe I should order customized stationery like that. That's actually a really chic idea now that I think about it. Anyway, I really didn't know. Like, I was like, is there supposed to be like a letterhead? Is it not supposed to be like, I literally didn't know, but I was so kind of flustered and I felt so, have you ever been somewhere and you don't know the norms of the place that you are, and so you feel really intimidated? Like, for example, I think this is a very relatable situation. Maybe the first time you went to a nice restaurant and ordered a bottle of wine, and you know how when you order a bottle of wine, they do the whole song and dance where it's like they'll show you the label first and then you have to nod and then they pour you a tiny little sip and you taste it and then you say yes and then they pour for everyone else. You know what I'm talking about? It's a little dance, right? And if you don't know what you're doing and someone comes and hands you a bottle and like shows you the label, you'd probably be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, that's so that, I can't be the first person who's encountered this. Or you go to a restaurant where you don't really know how to pronounce anything that's on the menu, or, all these situations where it's like you feel out of your element. And I think it often happens with things that in one way or another relate to money, if that makes sense. Because what it is we're all feeling not classy enough, right? I read so many etiquette books when I was in my early 20s because I just wanted to be able to hang out with chic, elegant people and not feel like a dumbass. I mean, literally, I was reading books to pretend that I knew what I was doing rather than just being like, yeah, I have no idea what the fuck's going on here. Someone teach me, which is totally fine. People would teach you. Anyway, so I just felt really overwhelmed in that stationery store for a second, and I didn't know how to ask about the monogram or the personalization. I felt really weird. And so I was like, I have a question, but it's going to be a stupid question. I don't even know how to word the question. I was kind of squirming. And this lady who was helping me goes, much older lady. I can't overemphasize how much older this lady was. An old, I think grandma was working at the store. Okay. And she just turns to me, goes, oh, who gives a fuck? Just ask the question. And it was this moment of, I knew exactly what she meant, which was, oh my God, my nail broke even more. You guys, things are not going well in the nail department for me. Anyway, so it was this moment where I was like, oh, like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, it was exactly what I needed to hear for me to stop taking myself so seriously. Anyway, so then a couple of days later, I go to get my face threaded, which if you don't know what that is, and I say this because there is a beauty treatment called threading. This isn't that. This is a hair removal thing where they basically take a piece of string and pull to yank the hairs out. So it's not putting facial threads in your face, which I hear they really, really hurt. And I hear that after a while they look really funky or something. So I don't know. Anyway, but then Lisa Barlow said that she has them and I think hers look really good. It's just something I want to kind of keep my eye on. Anyway, so I go to get my face threaded and we talked about a few things where every time she was saying exactly what I needed to hear. It was so crazy. I was saying how someone in my life is really moody and it's annoying me. And she goes, who cares? That's literally not your problem. Why are you letting someone else's energy affect you? And I was like, yeah, that's good advice. And then her dog had just passed away. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I live in constant, I mean, every moment of every day is fear about my dog dying. And she's like, why? That's like crazy. And she said all this stuff. I can't explain it without launching into a 4-hour long story of everything that's been going on with me over the past month. And, so I'm not going to do that. But basically, it's like she was saying things that were hitting on such a deep level of things that I'd never even conveyed. At some point, I was just thinking about something in my head, a question that I had, and she said something that was like a perfect answer to my question. And it was one of those moments where I was like, this feels, not to sound too woo-woo, but we're going to do kind of a woo-woo episode. This feels like God, the universe, whatever word you're comfortable with, is speaking to me through this person. It's like I'm getting these answers to these questions that I have that I don't think these people even know that I have these questions. Like, I don't think they're even aware that they're almost like channeling messages for me. Like, it's kind of wild. And that's happened a bunch of times before in my life. I mean, I have so many like kind of crazy woo-woo stories I could tell, maybe on a different episode, because I did promise to keep this one short. But I did kind of want to talk about signs and messages and 3 things that I do regularly that are, some people might consider these to be woo-woo. I actually don't think any of the 3 are that woo-woo, to be completely honest. Like, I think there's far more woo-woo stuff out there. Nevertheless, it's a little bit woo-woo. So I'm going to share what they are in case you want to implement them in your life. Number 1 is asking the universe for signs. So I've done this a bunch of times this year, especially when I want to make a big decision. I'll ask the universe to show me a very specific sign. So there was something I was looking into doing a few months ago, and I remember I asked the universe if this is the right move for me, if this is the right decision for me, show me butterflies. And that day when I was walking to Solid Core, I walked by this store display that had just thousands and thousands of butterflies hanging in the window display. It was so crazy. They had just changed the window display and it didn't even stay up that long, but it was there long enough for me to see all the fucking butterflies. And then I counted, and that day, aside from that one incident in which there were so many butterflies, I think I saw like 20 butterflies. Not real butterflies, because it wasn't really like butterfly season, and we're in New York City, but just pictures of butterflies, images of butterflies. I realized the system on the door of my building has a fucking butterfly on it. Like, it was just everywhere was butterflies. I do this all the time, and I find that, and sometimes I don't see the thing. I mean, I remember a few months ago, there was some self-help, these TikTokers and influencers who create digital courses and stuff like that. And I buy so many of them. I do so much of that type of shit. There was one that I was kind of curious about doing, and I asked the universe, I said, oh, show me, I don't know, a bear or something, before I get home if I meant to do this. And I kept my eyes fucking peeled, and nothing like that. It's so fucking nuts. So yeah, I do this all the time. I think it's a really fun way to just kind of play with the universe. And honestly, if nothing else, it'll make you a lot more present to your surroundings. So that's a win right there. The second thing that I do that's kind of along the same lines is at night, so I do my journaling in the morning. I do morning pages, like from the Artist's Way, where you write 3 pages stream of consciousness, like without ever stopping. But at night, I don't do journaling. All I do is I will write in my journal a question that I want an answer to, or something that I want help with or inspiration. For me, it's honestly often creativity stuff. So I'll ask for inspiration for something to make or something to post the next day, or a specific way to unpack something. Sometimes I just want answers. There's something I can't quite work out in my head, or I just want guidance or whatever. And, I learned about this, and people say like, oh, you get the answer in your dreams. I rarely get the answer in my dreams. Sometimes I get it, just I have gotten it in the middle of the night a lot. Like I've just woken up and written it down. And sometimes I get it the next morning when I do my morning pages, just as I'm writing, the answer poof is just right there. A lot of the cooler recipes that I've had in the past few months have actually, the ideas have come to me because from asking for it like that. And a lot of the best decisions I've made the past few months have been because of that. And that brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about. And this is, I think, the best kind of woo-woo practice that you can have, so long as you don't let it go too far. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And that is, I like to think of everything as like nothing is a coincidence. Everything is very intentional and meaningful. So the way I think of it is, if my life were a movie, like a really good movie, not like a shittily made movie, but I'm trying to think of who is very intentional with his movie making. I don't know. I actually don't know enough about movies to be able to make this analogy, but think of, one of those movies where there's extreme attention to detail, where every little thing is well thought out. Even the color of the shirt of the background actor is intentional. There is nothing in that movie that's just there by chance or by coincidence. Everything contributes to the plot in some way. And I like to think of my life in the same way, and think of it like there are no coincidences. If something is happening, it's happening for a reason. And I'm meant to receive some kind of message from it, learn something from it. And this approach, I think, is really cool because it really makes you feel like the main character. Like it really gives you that main character energy, which I think most of us could stand to embody a bit more. And it just makes you a lot more intentional. It makes you a lot more present. And it also helps you find meaning in things, especially bad or difficult things. Because whether it's true or not, I actually think is really irrelevant. Like, I think that most likely there probably are just coincidences. I don't know. I actually would love to I'd like to hear different opinions on this. Do you think there are coincidences? I don't fucking know. But whether there are or not, I actually think is so irrelevant. I think the deeper point is, if you just take this approach, you will learn things from everything that happens. And that kind of feeds into the first thing I was saying, like the story about the lady at the stationery store and Hibba, who does my eyebrows. Like, if I just was kind of going through life in a more disconnected way, I wouldn't even thought twice about the things that they were saying. But because I already have this mindset of everything is intentional, everything is here for a reason, and I'm meant to learn something from everything, I was able to find such profound meaning and inner peace from the things that they were saying. Whereas if this were a few years ago, I wouldn't have even noticed. Like, I truly would not have even noticed what they said, because it would have just been whatever, everyday kind of conversation. But instead, it ended up being this really healing, beautiful experience for me. And that's because I have this mindset of everything is intentional. Everything is here for a reason. I'm in the midst of the best fucking movie ever, like this sick ass, really well-intentioned, high production value movie, and we're gonna see where it fucking goes. And that also, I think, really helps with anytime you're going through something bad, because it's like, yeah, the main character goes through bad things. Like, it would be a really boring movie if from the beginning to the end the main character was just like happy and thriving. Like, no, we need some shit to go down for the plot, do it for the fucking plot. Okay, there you have it. That is that. If you do embody any of these principles, do let me know. And I really do want to hear what you think about coincidences, because I think that could be a really interesting conversation, but we're not going to have that conversation today. I will let you go back to your family or whatever it is that you're doing for the holidays, and we will chat next week for a very revealing conversation. Okay, that's all I can say. That's all I can tease. Okay, love you. Bye.
If you loved that episode as much as I hope you did, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and check out some past episodes while you wait for the new one to drop next week. And until next week, make sure to stay cunty out there.